Yo, what's good? What's good? It's your man 100 Grand Ross for The Rock Never Stops. Tonight I want to do this video about Kenyon Martin Jr., aka KJ, aka Little K Mart, and how I think he's going to be the next Jimmy Butler in the NBA. Yo, if you like this video, smash the like button for me, hit subscribe and the bell for notifications. Truly appreciate all the love and support that I'll be getting on here. The reason why I want to do this video because I've been watching these Rico Hines Summer League runs. And I'm going to be honest with y'all, like, I can appreciate when veterans want to play in some of the Drew leagues, the Miami pickup leagues. It's like for them, I think it's a cathartic release to be able to play for just fun, right? Go out there, get into your bag, get up 50 shots, take every shot you want to take, have the crowd oohing and on. But for the vast majority of the players in the NBA who are not veterans, who are not substantiated, who are not stamped, right, with that veteran stamp that you are official. We know who you are. We know what you're going to do. We can rely upon you. And you are of high value and need in this league. For the vast majority of players, they don't need to be in those summer leagues. They need to be in a spot like Rico Hines pickup run, where it's set up in a highly structured way where they have coaches working on development with the players for about an hour or so before they even start their 5-on-5 pickup. And when they do play 5-on-5 pickup, it's a very intentional style of play where they're making sure that not only are you utilizing the things that you're working on in your developmental practices right beforehand, but you're also being demanded to play the game the right way. And when I say the right way, I mean making sure that you're getting back on defense. You're getting into a stance. You're communicating on defense. You're in the right spot in terms of spacing, right? You're taking shots that are appropriate for your game, not trying to be James Harden out there when you know you're never going to have a role like that. Now, when I'm watching this run, one thing I love about it is how the Toronto Raptors be in there in spades. I mean, they just come in deep. They use this summer league Rico Hines run as almost like a training ground where they get to sharpen all their skills coming into training camp, right? And it's a beautiful thing. It's highly competitive. Guys are playing in their roles, maximizing it, getting comfort, building continuity with their teammates. It's amazing. It's dope. But this is the thing. When you see somebody like Kenyon Martin Jr., who's been coming to these runs, he's been coming. Remember, he came in out of high school. He didn't go to college, right? He said, look, I'm not going to college. I know I want to be a pro, right? This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to take the pro route, take responsibility for my talent, and I'm going to go straight into the pros. So what he did, not only did he work on his body, right? He had his pops to be able to tell him how to do so, right? He's built like his pops at 6'6", 220 pounds, muscle, right? But he also made sure that he was in environments where he could learn from veterans. You see, if you watch him, he's always soaking up the game from different veterans. He's watching constantly and he's applying. And even though he was known as more of an athlete who didn't have a lot of skill, you can see every single year he has developed more and more of his skills, whether it's been straight line drives to the basket, whether it's been always working on that 3-point shot. Now I think he's almost at a point where he's going to be in that PJ Tucker type role where he can defend 4 to 5 positions and be a stretch player. But this is the thing that sets him apart from a PJ Tucker type role player to a Jimmy Butler. Is he is show-stopping athleticism. He is shut the gym down athleticism. He is highlight factory. He is one of the few who is elite of the elites when it comes to the athletic giftings to get over the rim. His father, Kenyon Martin, said, man, I ain't never had hops like that. My son be out jumping me in my heyday, in his heyday. Coming out of Cincinnati, #1 pick in the draft, right? He wasn't even jumping like his son is. And when you watch these runs, Kenyon Martin Jr. not only is able to put his his foundation of who he is as a player on display every single time out, meaning that he's playing hard-nosed defense, right? He's talking on defense. He's always into you. It didn't matter if he was guarding Fred VanVleet or Pascal Siakam. He was into them every single time. He stood his ground, moved his feet. He wasn't picking up silly fouls, even though I think he got called for one or two on Pascal. But you could see that positionally he knows where to be. He's somebody that you can rely upon to play great defense. And this is probably one of the first connections to a Jimmy Butler, is that Jimmy Butler, when he came into the league, right, he wasn't known as this playmaking individual as he is today. He was actually known as just a defensive stopper, somebody who got out in transition, played without the ball, and played amazing defense. And that earned him a lot of minutes. Now, this is what we see already from Kenyon Martin Jr. His defensive ability is already elite. His ability to move his feet with a low center of gravity, great agility, anticipation, his physicality. That's another area where he really compares to a Jimmy Butler. But his ability to get up into you, right, and use his body, use his strength, not to foul you, but to not give you any ground. To not give you any ground. And this is something that only the best defenders really understand, is that defense is more about positioning, more so than it is athleticism, length, or even physicality. It's, can you get into the right position before they can get into that position to have an advantage over you, right? Can you anticipate? Can you read the hips? Can you memorize what this player's tendencies are, right? And then with that anticipation and viewing his body and what the situation is in the game, be in the right spot. He's already doing that. Now, when you also watch this pickup run, you also saw that his three-point shot is coming along beautifully. He's shooting it with more confidence. It looks smooth as it did at the end of last season, right? And he's finding his spots. He's moving. He's not forcing shots. He's taking the right shots, right? And this is something that is a big difference between guys who are going to get major minutes as a role player with an expanding role and guys who are just trying to bust out as soon as they hit the court and prove that they're going to be a future star, right? There's levels to this. You have to be able to show yourself to be consistent and improved at each level before you level up, right? Someone like Cam Reddish can really learn from Kenyon Martin Jr., right? He can really learn from, like, yo, hey, just show that you can stay healthy, stay out of foul trouble, be a good defender, knock down open shots. If you can just show that, right, you're going to be of high value in the NBA. But right now, you're not even showing that consistently, right? But then the next aspect that I'm really beginning to notice is that Kenyon Martin Jr. is working on that handle. Now, I don't think he's ever going to be the playmaker that Jimmy Butler is today, because Jimmy Butler had some playmaking skills, at least off the bounce, when he was at Marquette. Even though he didn't get a chance to showcase it until later on, it's something he already had a high level of confidence in. And even though I don't think Kenyon Martin is going to be one of those black hole type players, he's already shown that he has the elite ability to get to the rim. He's got that first step. He's got that athleticism, got that bounce, that physicality to bump you off of your line and be able to elevate, and you're not in position, right? And when he elevates, oh my God. I mean, I think pretty much every video he was in, he was banging on somebody's head. And I'm talking about head above the rim, coming down on the rim, banging on somebody's head. Like, he's going to be one of the type of players that teams are going to be watching. And even though he's not going to be a free agent until a couple of seasons, right? I think we're going to see at the end of this year, he's going to become invaluable. They're going to have to start looking at Jayshawn Tate and Kenyon Martin Jr. and being like, man, which one do we want? Right? Because we don't know necessarily which one is going to be the better fit or the most developed in the next couple of years. Now, the difficult part is for the Houston Rockets. They've got a bunch of players who play a similar role and position as Kenyon Martin Jr., whether it's Jayshawn Tate, David Nwaba, whether it's newly drafted Tari Eason, right? Sterling Brown. They've got a bunch of guys who are in that kind of physical wing defender who get out in transition and play without the ball, right? But Kenyon Martin Jr., I'm going to be honest with you, he's got a different type of edge. He's got that Jimmy Butler edge where you know that he's coming for you. You know that he's coming because he has a chip on his shoulder. I remember, like, look, I know you have high school rankings and all of that, but Kenyon Martin Jr. looked at everybody in his class, and there wasn't a single player he was looking at and being like, man, this guy is so much better than me. right? And to fall into the second round the way he did, it was almost as if teams didn't want to touch him, right? They didn't want to give him that chance. And you got to imagine he's sitting there like, man, I'm in my senior year of high school, right? And I'm playing against pros the very next year. And I don't even get a consideration in the first round with my talent and abilities and this type of chip, right? This is what drives players, right? And I mean, and don't even let me mention, having a pops like Kenyon Martin, he's going to have that fire. He's going to play with that fire and that edge every single time out. He's not going to back down from anybody. And that's the type of player that so many teams are lacking, right? Somebody with that edge, somebody who brings a level of toughness and physicality, right? And so I can totally see a team like the New York Knicks, right, looking for a Kenyon Martin Jr. to bring in to play as a wing defender, right? Somebody who's not going to need the ball in his hands a whole bunch, but can still be highly effective and efficient and be able to be that tough knockdown shooter, lockdown defender, right? And so my outlook for Kenyon Martin Jr. is by next season, we're going to start looking at him as like, yo, this dude can start. This dude could probably start on just about any team at that wing position because of the intangibles that he brings in terms of physicality, defensive ability, acumen, ability to move without the ball and knock down open shots. Those types of traits are rare in combination. And when you have that on top of the athleticism and his young age, you have to start really asking yourself, what is the value of this player? But the thing is, I don't see Kenyon Martin Jr. stopping at all. Like, I don't see KJ stopping at all. I don't see him ever getting to a point where he's satisfied with his game. He's satisfied with, oh, okay, I just got a max salary potentially. You know what I mean? Oh, okay, I'm done. Nah, he's always going to be in the lab. He's somebody that you could just tell, like, he loves playing the game. And that's a big difference between a lot of guys. Some guys like playing the game. They don't love playing the game. They don't always love the process of what it means to be a professional and to stay a professional within the NBA. And I think Kenyon Martin Jr. has that down. He came into the NBA understanding how to be a professional, right? He understood how to prepare himself. He understood how to stay focused, keep working on his game, grinding, make sure that he can contribute where he can consistently so he can earn trust, he can earn a position, he can earn a roster slot and be consistent. And that's what he's done this entire time. So my outlook for him is literally to be the next Jimmy Butler. Now, like I say, he's not going to be the playmaker. But I think he's going to end up, he has the potential to end up as a 20 plus points per game scorer. And it might seem like a far stretch, but you got to think of when you look at guys like the Toronto Raptors and some of those guys, you see a whole lot of players who just keep adding, keep adding, keep adding, keep adding. You look at Jaylen Brown, right, for the Boston Celtics. He just kept adding to his game. Look at OG Anunoby. He just keeps adding to his game. These are guys who came in not very refined in terms of offensive skill, but just kept working, kept grinding, stayed focused. And because of their athletic ability and their physicality, they were able to add on top of doing the basics, doing the basics. And this is where I think we're going to see the elevation of Kenyon Martin Jr., is that he's just going to keep adding to his game. And next thing you know, you're going to be looking up at him. And I'm going to be honest, in the next two seasons, man, where he might be, if his handle continues to develop and he can get to the rim. Remember, all the attention is on Jalen Green and Kevin Porter Jr., Alperen Sengun, right? Everybody else, Jabari Smith. He's going to be the guy that's just eating. That's just eating every time, feeding off of those guys, being in the right spot, knocking down shots, right? And so I want to know what you all think as always. What do you think his ceiling is? Holler at me in the chat section. I'm going to get at y'all next time. Peace.